right, so last week we got the well, I was out of town, but Chris was able to get the transmission out, and we got the oil pan off the week prior to that, checked everything. We found out what kind of stuff is in his motor. What else did we do?
Well, you got your parts in for your motor, so we got to still assemble that and get that back in your truck this week. With only 2 weeks left before Norwalk, we do really have kind of a deadline, and we have a small window of time to get this going. So we need to get your motor back in there, change out your steering parts that broke last time, and then do a front end alignment on yours.
So we have to upgrade the our rosette weld, the 4-link, to make it a little bit.
In the 4-link, yeah, that's correct. Obviously, got to get my stuff back in the car and then test it to make sure that the stall is where it needs to be. We have a lot of work to do in 2 weeks, and we don't have every day to work on it. We only have sporadic days, so we're going to have to see what we can come up with, and hopefully we can meet that deadline. What do you think?
I think we'll make it.
All right.
All right, guys, what we're gonna do today is 2 different operations while we're still waiting on some parts. I mentioned in the last video that we needed to upgrade the steering arms because they bent on the ride in the trailer from Bowling Green. I've already done one side to make sure everything was gonna work, and then I'll show you the parts side by side and then do the other side so you can see how I switched them out. If anybody has these strange struts, this is an excellent upgrade. It doesn't add much weight at all, and it definitely makes me feel a lot more confident, and it gives you an extra bolt hole as well. Downside of the bolt hole is you have to get specialized hardware, and I'll explain that in a minute. This is the steering arm that is bent and twisted, and that was on this side, the passenger side. And this is the upgraded steering arm. You can see how it's gusseted. It's the same thickness metal, and so really the only thing it's added in weight is this little gusset bar, which, because they've lightning holed it, it's really not that much heavier. So we're gonna go ahead and switch out this side here, and then we're also going to put rosette welds in the 4-link. So on initial fire up of the motor, we didn't have the torque converter hooked up, and then we hooked the torque converter up and we started having a really loud grinding noise. We didn't know what it was. So we pulled the transmission and found out that the input shaft wasn't fully seated into the power glide. And it wouldn't go in and it wouldn't come out. So that, from everybody on the internet, because I don't know a whole lot about these, was telling me that it was probably the wedding band and maybe the input shaft had some burrs on it. This was the original input shaft, and I had some burrs at the end of this. That's what was grinding, and that wedding ring right here is what has to slip over top of it. We got a good slip fit now. So that's what was causing all the noise. I had the spare input shaft right here, but I've decided to just go back to the standard one, or the one that came with the case. Also got new gaskets for the pump and the old the pan. It's got a billet throttle body, some nice trick parts in it. All the gears look good. This transmission only has about maybe 20-30 passes on it. One thing that you can't stress enough when you're doing a transmission, just fixing something or do a full rebuild, is everything's got to be super clean, but you also want to put some of this assembly goo on it. It actually turns into ATF after it warms up. It's the only stuff that you can use in transmissions. I use it on everything. Once I clean it, all the gears, any bearing, any seal, I'll put some on the seals like this right here, so it keeps the seals to slide in real nice and it keeps them where they're supposed to be. I also put a little bit behind the gaskets to hold them where they need to be. So make sure, guys, don't go in dry. Use some assembly goo. All right, so now the engine's installed.
In the truck.
In the truck, and we actually ran into a few snags. I had to cut down the studs on the head studs to make them fit that block. We had to order new push rods, which I was expecting. I ended up getting those in 2 days, so that was great. Motor went in really easy, other than when we put the flywheel on, I didn't check to see if the flywheel bolts were too long, and they ended up hitting the crank. So we end up having, it would be easiest to pull the transmission back out, fix that situation. So that's what we did, and we got the transmission back in, and we test fired it without the converter actually installed. Test fired great, sounded great. We were all real excited. We connected the torque converter and we had the loudest grinding noise.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible.
awful.
It was like I don't know how to describe it. It was like metal on metal, rubbing really hard.
It was like a gear coming in and out of contact. It was like a vibration / rub.
Yeah, and that was scary because it sounded like it was coming from the transmission, and then we started it with you under the car, and you can feel it.
Yeah,
right?
we originally thought maybe the torque converter was too far out. I checked the air gap and it wasn't bad. I think the air gap between the torque converter and the flywheel was only 3/16, which is within spec. But we thought maybe for some reason the torque converter was out too far and it was disengaging the pump. So we undid the torque converter and slid it back all the way, and I made a spacer so it just had like a 1/16 of a gap, and tried it, and it's the same noise, so that wasn't it. We tried all kinds of stuff, and basically it was just me under there holding on to stuff as he started to try to pinpoint exactly what was coming from. Well, it was definitely transmission related, so we went ahead and pulled it out again.
Yeah.
And that's when we found the input shaft would not come out of the power glide, which it's supposed to. So we knew we had an issue with the wedding ring or something causing it to bind, or something was wrong with the input shaft.
It was clicking. You turn the input shaft, you can hear it click, 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 and it just did not sound right.
So I pulled that apart, found the damage, which wasn't very severe. I just took a file and filed the teeth to get the wedding band off. Lubed everything back up, threw it back in there with some new gaskets, and put it back in the truck and fired it up, and it was great. So
it sounded perfect. And so you were able to take it on its first journey with that new motor. Here's a little clip of it. What did you think when you were coming down the road on that?
Well, so when I drove away, I just barely had throttle, and I made sure I had all the gears. And then on the way back, that was quarter throttle, and it felt extremely healthy. The third clip of it coming back to the shop, I did give it about half throttle. Obviously, just lit the tires up because it's it's just a blacktop road. But it is
in Mexico.
In Mexico. It's going to be interesting and scary. It's definitely quite a bit more power than my last motor. Plus, it's a whole new chassis from last year we had not tested on a quarter-mile track. The only 2 tests we had was 8th mile, and I blew one of them. So
yeah, so you haven't been on the quarter mile yet with that new with your truck this year.
Yeah.
So the new engine, I mean, we're thinking, okay, you were around 10s before on your old engine.
So the old engine, my best was a 998, and in the quarter, but in the 8th mile, a 998 was around a 630. Time slips from the 8th mile with the new chassis, just the chassis just being changed. I was at a 618. So I was already in line for probably a 970s.
Because you had changed the chassis and everything and lost a little bit of weight, and so that was it.
Lost weight, plus
got you down some.
rigidity. There wasn't as much flex.
Yeah.
And the truck, instead of coming up off the front tire 6 inches, it only was an inch. So that's more energy going forward. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that made it faster. So it's the chassis alone, it was going to make a huge difference. But with the new motor, I'm expecting at least 100, maybe 200 horse more. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to put us into a situation where I don't have my competition license yet through NHRA. So I'm going to be working with a couple guys trying to get that, maybe at Norwalk if it works out.
So I guess if you don't get your license before then,
10 flat.
We got to do 10 flat. So we got to actually slow that thing down somehow.
Well, I've got some blower pulleys we can change out, and we can take the timing down and maybe try to pull some power out that way. We should be able to make it 10 flat. The problem is when you're doing it, when you're making that drastic of changes, that you're not going to be as consistent. So you really need to run what the motor kind of wants, and then deviate that with some weight.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't have pick-off points for weight yet, so that's something I'm going to have to add in the future.
Man, I'm excited for you. I know that this is going to be a screaming motor. I think you'll
be
be down low 9s. I know. I mean, it has to be. And so
we always say that, and we're always expecting that.
Yeah.
I do feel that it's for sure a 9-second truck. I just don't know where at in the 9s.
Yeah.
Maybe 950. We'll see. But I need that competition license to run there safely or competitively.
Yeah. As far as my car is concerned, we
got the transmission installed.
Transmission, torque converter in. We just need to test it real quick and see what that stalls at. If it's above 4,000 RPMs, I think that it's going to launch a lot harder, and we're going to have to lower the air pressure down, I think, because it's not. It might just spin.
Yeah. Well, I figure the first time out we'll probably start with 15, maybe go to 12.5, somewhere around there, and then see where you like. It's the biggest issue is something you're going to get used to is. Yeah. It's going to want to walk on the big end a little bit, and you're just going to have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's regardless, both of our situations are a little scary because we're going into something that we don't know for sure.
And obviously, it's no secret this is my first year racing, so I've been on the quarter mile one time. Well, 4 passes. So as the faster I go, it's going to be a little more scary for me, and I got to learn those experience points. So. I'm excited to see what it does. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to saddle that horse.
You got to saddle that thing and ride it.
So we got the steering. What I did was I raised the strut towers with a spacer by 0.420 of an inch to give me a little bit extra clearance on my oil pan. It wasn't going to be an issue, but I didn't think it was going to be an issue, but it still might be an issue. So we just went ahead and did it and got it over with. What the difference is the old pan had a cutout for a cross member. My new pan is a chassis pan, so it's the whole pan. is 8 inches deep, which caused me to have 12 inches behind the center line was 2.5 inches, a little over 2.5 inches. So this new spacer will raise me up to that 3-inch level that NHRA wants. So we got that done, and we also tested your motor.
Yeah, I tested the stall, and remember before it was 4,000 it was stalling at, just taking like a dog off the line. Now, 5,500 RPM sitting on the line. I can't imagine how much of a difference that's going to be, because it's right in that power band that motor likes.
Yeah, and we know that from the data, right at 5,200 to 5,500 RPMs, it just wanted to take off.
Oh my gosh. It's like a
gonna be
switch.
great.
I mean, bing, and it's on. So
great.
I'm a little nervous about it, but we're going to be okay, I think. So we got everything loaded up. We're ready to go to Norwalk. What's your anticipation? Do you think we're going to do good?
Yeah, I think we're really hoping we can get you down real close to 10. If possible, it'd be great if we just got a 10.
My best time so far is 11:72.
So he has to enter in the class that I'm in, which means it's index 10 flat. He's may or may not be competitive depending on how well this torque converter works for him. So he's going up there with us for support on my truck.
Testing,
and to get
basically.
4 passes of testing and to hang out.
Yeah.
It's an awesome race.
Yeah.
And then if you can't get 10, then somebody's going to get a free pass to round 2.
Yeah, very true. Yeah,
I'm hoping to line up against them.
And hey, yeah, right. Well, yeah, I'd rather lose to you than anyone else.
Well, we'll see. Obviously, you can't cherry pick, so if it falls out that way, that's cool.
Yeah.
But getting everything loaded up. We also, if you remember in episode 1, we ended up screwing the trailer up.
Yeah,
So I have to put a new jack on before we leave. I bought it. I got to get that
Seems
done.
like it's never ending. Something always breaks.
I think every time you take the toter and trailer out, you have to fix something.
So,
I mean, it's
exactly.
just how it works.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, join us next time. We will recap the whole experience at Norwalk, and you can follow along and see how we do. We're also going to be posting stuff on our site about some little clips here and there of our experience down there.
Probably gonna video live my final round in Pro Gas.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be cool if we got there.
Yeah, it would be.
You remember that one time we went to Norwalk and I won Pro Gas?
Oh yeah, you won the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wake up. Wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up. Yeah. So anyways,
All right, man.
all right. Well, we're ready to go. Let's hit it.